This episode is brought to you in partnership with Enhanced CBD, bringing you the best CBD products on the market. Go over to their website and enter code SUPERNECESSARY to get 10% off.
It's also brought to you by Fortis Fightwear, bringing you premium boxing equipment and apparel. Head over to their website and enter code SUPERNECESSARY10 for 10% off at checkout. Hello and welcome back to Super Necessary. Today we are joined by upcoming Cage Warriors contender and future champ Matt the Beast Bonner. Nearly messed your name up there.
How you doing, guys? Okay.
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. You?
Yeah, good.
Excellent. Thanks very much for coming back on.
Our pleasure, mate. I enjoyed it last time, and I think we was with Nathan Fredrick as well last time, weren't we? But it's nice.
Yeah, I thought we'd give you the spotlight on your own today.
It's a bit of a different name, Matt the Beast, isn't it? Oh.
So first and foremost, congratulations on the big win out last time. Obviously beat the former champ James Webb. How much did that fight go as you expected it to? Did anything surprise you about the fight?
It went exactly as I thought it was going to go. That's why I was a little bit puzzled watching his old fights in terms of why people didn't crack on to doing what I did with the takedown defence, in terms of underhooks and keeping it off the cage as best you can and just having a striking fight with him. I saw that, and so did obviously my coach as well. We saw from watching his old fights that was obviously the way it was going to go, because he'll drag you to the floor and keep you there, James Webb. So it went perfectly, and it was obviously really good to get a finish as well.
Had you noticed that, did you only notice that when you started actually knowing that you were going to fight James Webb, or is that something you'd been looking out for in his fights anyway?
I asked for the James Webb fight ages ago because I thought that's how the fight would go. I watched the James Webb Mick Stanton fight plenty of times, and it always Mick Stanton's got reasonable boxing. He comes from a boxing background, but Mick kept trying to take it to the floor, which I could never understand because all the success that he had was on the feet. So I kept watching these fighters kind of beating Webb on the feet and then wanting to take it down for some real strange reasons. So I asked for the James Webb fight before the Matt Inman fight, actually, after the George Smith fight, and then it didn't come off, and then I won the Matt Inman fight, and then obviously we got the fight secured and got a nice little win.
It was a very impressive win. What does it mean to you to get a win over someone of James's caliber? Obviously, former champion. What does that win mean to you?
It means that you're at the level that you hope you are. I've always said, I never lived up to what I was capable of and what I felt I was doing in the gym. Certainly with the Jeremy Richardson fight, I kind of felt like I completely flopped that. And then it's a strange one because everyone was saying how great George Smith was, and I agreed. I thought George Smith was probably the best guy in the division. And then you beat him, and everyone goes, "Oh, he's not very good, George Smith, was he? He's not very good." And you think, well, fuck's sake, you said he was great before I beat him. And then everyone was saying I was going to get beat by Matt Inman, and then I beat him, and then he was washed up and retired for 3 years and all the rest of it. So no one can really say after James Webb that he wasn't a quality opponent because he was the ex-champion. He was on a 2-fight win streak. So no one can really deny me after that fight, I felt. And then obviously it's gone the way to get me this title shot.
Yeah, it's something, I think that is something we've touched on a little bit on the podcast in the past, how fans are fickle. How at 1 minute a fight is the greatest fighter they've ever seen, and as soon as they lose, they're no good again. I mean, do you take almost a bit of offence when people start saying stuff like that because it sort of discredits your wins?
I used to. I think this was the big difference after the Jamie Richardson fight, because and I don't know if they mean to do it, these guys, but I own a gym with my twin brother, so I do kind of one-to-ones and group sessions and stuff, and people come in and say, "Oh, you've got a fight coming up, haven't you?" And you say, "Yeah, I'm fighting this guy." They say, "Oh, well, I'll watch you and we'll talk about it next time I come in." And then they'll come in and they'll say how great the guy is that you're fighting. "Oh, he's got knockout power. Oh, it's going to be a tough fight for you, this, Matt." And you think, well, fuck's sake, I don't really want to hear you saying that, to be honest. And then you do beat him. And then they tell you how shit the person was who you just beat. And I thought, fuck's sake, 2 weeks ago, he was telling me this kid was going to chin me. But yeah, he's I think the more you're in this game, you realise that's part of it. And it's either people criticising you online or people kind of being passive aggressive to your face. But it doesn't even. I say I'm very relaxed about the kind of fighting these days. As long as I go in there and do my best, then that's that. And win or lose, or get knocked out, whatever happens, it happens. As long as I go in there and do my best and try and win, then so be it.
I think regardless with what fighters do, they should get credit no matter what level they're at. There's the fact that they're going in there and putting their bodies on the line. It deserves credit from the off. You know what I mean? It's mad.
So it's always the same people as well. They wouldn't say anything to your face. They never step foot in a ring or a cage themselves, but they're giving it really big bollocks on Twitter and social media and stuff like that.
I had a fella come to buy some tickets off me. This was probably about a year ago. It's for the Sean Lomas fight, actually. Again, I think it must have been like 2 years ago. It was my first fight out of Next Generation, and he came to pick up these tickets. And I think I'd lost the previous fight. And he came up to me and said, "So you're gonna try and win this time? Then you're gonna try and put on a bit more of a performance?" I thought, "You fit cunt! If I weren't selling these 8 tickets to you, I'd chin you for saying that." I was trying to try last time. Actually, just the other guy got the better of me for whatever reason. But you're right in what you say. It's the guys who criticise are the guys who would never even dare step foot in there.
Yeah. No, it needs to be. There's got to be some way to stop it, but I suppose if, like yourself, you don't let it affect you,
them in the face. That's how you stop it.
But I suppose you've got to be like yourself. Don't let it affect you, and then eventually they'll just sort of give up and not have a go at you anymore. How much confidence does going into your title fight after a win over someone like James Webb? How much confidence does that give you?
Very confident, because obviously Nathias Fredrick, he fought James Webb twice. He fought the first time when James Webb was the champion, it was like a draw. And then the second time, Fredrick kind of TKO'd him at the end of the 4th round. So for me to kind of beat James Webb in 2 rounds, when it took Fredrick, 9 rounds over 2 fights to knock him out, kind of, again, I think makes it look a bit more favourable to me. But yeah, I'm again super relaxed and super confident going in. I think knowing that I've again training at Next Gen and training with the training partners I'm sparring and rolling and wrestling with every day. There's seriously nothing more that I could have done in this camp. There's got to be no regrets looking back. There's nothing. Oh God, why didn't I get turned up for sparring and why did I miss that session? I really am trying to push myself to the limits really, and getting the S&C in and running, and obviously the diet and the weight cut, and I'm very professional with how I do this. Just so if it does go the wrong way, it is legitimately because Fredrick was better, not because I didn't turn up on the day.
Yeah, as you say, you like to watch previous performances. When you look back at your previous fights, like for us, we thought that was quite a flawless performance. For you, is there anything that sticks out that you would have done differently?
Yeah, just in terms of my career in the fights, I always say I went professional way too early. I was very naive. I was almost doing it all by myself. I was managing myself. I was taking the fights. I was just completely in control of my own career, which is never really a good idea. You want guys who can guide you in the right direction, and obviously you want what's really, really important is you want sparring partners who, at the level that you want to be. So that's the kind of, when I look back, that's the, if there is a regret, that is it. But I've got quite a lot of losses on my record, but I think if anything, it kind of it makes quite a nice story if I do win this world title. It's not some kind of clean sheet. I've not been pampered from day one. I've not been really kind of guided by anyone. I had a load of losses. I changed up and went Next Gen. And that was obviously the best decision for my career. And the losses really have got me to this point. I kind of think if I didn't have those losses, I certainly wouldn't be half the fighter that I am today. And I'd have probably never, moved over to Next Gen. I might have stayed on my own and got comfortable and not stepped out of that comfort zone. So in terms of regrets, in terms of my career, there really isn't many that I can really say affect me on a day-to-day basis or anything like that.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So how are you approaching the fight at the moment with Nathias? Is everything on plan, everything on course?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, the difference being for a title fight, so it's 5 rounds. It's 5-minute rounds, but previously it's 3 5-minute rounds. And then there's kind of a slight difference with the weight as well. In a non-title fight, you've got half a kilo allowance, and on a title fight you haven't. But it's not really. My training camp for this one hasn't really changed. I could have gone 5 rounds with James Webb. I felt super fresh at the end of the second round, which kind of allowed me to put on that kind of 20-punch combo that I finished him with. So there's not really been a massive difference. In training, we spar on the Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we always do 4 or 5 rounds every single week. So in terms of conditioning, I don't really feel like there's no worries about going 5 rounds. If I could pick between the 3 rounds or the 5 rounds, I'd pick 5. I've always wanted to fight 5 rounds because historically I was a little bit of a slow starter anyway. So the 5 rounds are going to suit me. In terms of preparing for his style and stuff, that's a little bit of an awkward one because he isn't kind of like a classy, refined striker, Fredrick. He's very much like a brawler style, which I think is probably harder to fight in some ways. If you're in a good gym with good lads, most of them are very kind of slick boxers, so you can kind of get used to fighting that style. Where Frederick's it's almost like a bar fight. He throws everything behind his punches, which can be a little bit tricky. So I suspect he's probably going to take me around to be able to get my distance and my timing. But again, I'm very confident that I'm going to beat him and take the belt.
So he's kind of got that unpredictability factor about him.
Very unpredictable and very kind of emotional as well. He does lose his temper in there. He's had a big argument with Matt Goddard, the first James Webb fight. He chased after Jamie Richardson after, I think it was the second round. And so he's a bit of a kind of a very emotional in between rounds and stuff. So that'll be interesting. I've never kind of had to deal with that before. So we'll see what kind of temperament he's in, but I'm certainly not one for backing down or anything like that. I'm ready to go 5 hard rounds, or if it's going to be a grappling fight, or if it's going to be a pure stand-up fight. I'm going to prepare for both.
Him being so emotional, is that something you can look to exploit, do you think?
Possibly. I'm not one of these guys that's going to come out and start a conversation with him or anything like that, but we'll see. I just don't know how he's going to behave. Sometimes he seems very respectful, and other times, like I mentioned, he seems to kind of really lose his temper. In fact, I think it's one of his amateur fights. One of the referees had to get a rear naked choke on him to pull him off. A guy he just knocked out. You can watch that on YouTube if anybody wants to.
I think we've seen that,
Yeah, I think we might have done. We've looked at a few videos like that.
Really odd. But then you'll go on Frederick's Instagram page and he'll kind of revel in that a little bit. So I don't really understand, but in terms of going in there and kind of poking fun at him and taunting him, it's not really my character. I just want to go in there and do the business and get out again in one piece.
With this fight camp then, because obviously, as you say, with the brawler, they kind of come wide. Is your focus more on the straight punches and beating them to them wider punches, or is it?
It is. It's kind of, in terms of my training, I don't really like, for the most part, I kind of break up like 80%. I'm going to go in there and try and improve myself and try and work on my skills. And then the 20% is kind of like fight simulation, where you will simulate the hooks and me coming down the middle and stuff like that. So that's definitely an option. Again, it's a bit of a strange one with Fredrick because he's not like a really great grappler, and he's got quite a lot of gaps in his stand-up, which makes it a little bit tricky to deal with. If you're fighting against someone like James Webb, who's a really good grappler, straight away your game plan is I'm going to keep it standing. I'm going to beat him up on the feet. If you go against a really good striker, you think, okay, now I'm going to take it down to the floor. But because he's kind of like, I don't know if average is the right word because he's a world champion, but because he's not like very refined or technical in both, it leaves options, which is always good. But there's not that kind of that rock solid game plan that you think, right, I'm definitely going to do this. It's very much going to be a game of going in there and seeing what happens. And kind of adjusting, I suppose.
Yeah, kind of taking it round by round almost.
Yeah, and we've prepared for that, to be fair. Obviously, being at a top gym, you do the wall wrestling, you do the wrestling, you do the striking, you do boxing, and there's loads of lads in there very capable and very specialised in all of them. So it's something that I'm really prepared for. Wherever this fight goes, I feel like I've probably got the advantage, to be quite honest.
You mentioned there about, where you put your focus when you're in fight camp, but do you change your fight camp based more on your opponent, or do you like to just keep the focus on yourself and improving yourself?
I think, mate, I'm lucky enough where I've got a twin brother, so what I tend to do is I'll do all my kind of skill training at Next Gen, working on myself and improving my skills, and then if I need anything simulating, I'll come back and train with my twin brother. He's a very good Thai boxer. He's number 9 in the world at his weight class, so I can just get him to kind of come in and try and simulate those kind of things. But predominantly, it is more me working on myself because this is a big fight, but there's going to be fights after Fredrick, so I don't want to focus too much on what Fredrick brings. And let's face it, he might have added tools to his game in between the Richardson fight. So for me to prepare for Fredrick, he might not be the same Fredrick when he steps in in June.
I'm just going to add something quickly. When we spoke at one point, you mentioned you on identical, are you and your brother?
No, we're not identical, no.
That's mad, because you're like proper look alike. It's mad.
Did you might go to sometimes ask the head coach there that's trained with your brother a few times?
Right,
Glyn at Alliance.
Right, yeah, sure, yeah. God, what's the name again? What's the name of the gym?
Alliance.
That's right, yeah. They're good friends, actually. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I've spoke to him about your brother a few times, and he spoke about how good he is and stuff like that, and how good it is training with him and that. So
he just fought. He did his first fight, obviously since COVID. I think it was 2 weeks ago now, and smashed this Scottish fella. This guy was former 4th in the world, and Dan just battered him. He smashed him open with elbows. Every time this kid stepped in, Dan had an elbow waiting for him, and I think he reckons may have broke both the guys' cheekbones because he was alright state after the fight. But yeah, Dan's very high level. Hopefully he did have 2 fights booked in after this last one, and he had a coach of one of these guys ring up his coach and say, "Listen, Dan will smash our lad up, so we're not taking the fight." So he's kind of looking for another fight now. I think he's thinking around August time he'll be able to line his next one up.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult, really, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's funny because the guy who's pulled out is UK number 4 as well. How can you turn down a fight from UK if you're UK number 4? Surely you have to fight. Anything that comes your way, but yeah, unfortunately that fight's kind of off the table now. But like you say, hopefully Dan can get a fight sorted out pretty soon.
That speaks volumes, doesn't it? Dan's ability as a fighter.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, if someone ranked higher than him was looking at him and going, "Nope, don't want none of that."
That's right. Yeah.
I'd be walking around like a badge of honour with that. So last time you were on, you mentioned sort of in your career you've been a bit of a up and down fighter. Get a couple of losses, a couple of wins here and there.
Sure.
Are we now seeing the best version of Matt Bonner?
Definitely, yeah. I think there's 2 things that happened to kind of bring me to where I am now, which hopefully is going to carry on with this winning this world title. But one was, like I've mentioned 10 million times, is moving to Next Gen, and then the second one was again the Jamie Richardson loss, where I kind of just felt like I'd almost ruined it for myself and put so much pressure on, and I weren't enjoying training very much. And after that fight, I just said I was going to enjoy it all and get back to enjoying training, enjoy the weight cutting, and kind of what will be. So yeah, I'm definitely the best now than I've ever been. And kind of every training camp, you think, I think I'm about as good as I'm going to get, and then Paul Rimmer will teach you something new, or you'll pick up something else, or something will happen. You'll have more success in sparring. You think, I'm miles better than I was even 2 months ago. I think I'm miles better than the James Webb fight. I've been working, an awful lot more on my boxing this time as well, which was quite good for the James Webb fight. But developing more power. Every single coach I've worked with has always said I've got quite a lot of power on the pads, but it's not about hitting pads. It's about being able to hit the target when you're fighting. And you have to go on in Cage Warriors. So I've been working on that a lot and trying to land a little bit more harder shots in sparring, which has worked really well for this camp. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more of that in this fight as well.
What's your approach been to sparring in general? If yours tends to go light sparring, or is it do you kind of go hard sparring?
I come from like a Thai boxing background where the sparring is predominantly like very like play sparring. So that was the hard thing coming to next gen. I had Paul Rimmer pull me aside quite a few times and say, Matt, you're not hitting people hard enough. You're being too light on them. And obviously, I'm one of the bigger guys in the gym as well. So that kind of unnerved me to put the power down a little bit. And it wasn't because I didn't think my training partners could take it or anything like that. You hear all the rumours, all the time about guys bullying each other in the gym and stuff and throwing the weight around. And I never wanted to be one of them. But I went to the other extreme where I was being too soft and I needed to put that power down a little bit more and be a bit more of an enforcer in the gym. So that's been better. But historically, I've been a softer spar, and I did, like I say, I got warned by Paul Rim quite a few times about that. He wanted me to open up a little bit and push the lads I was sparring.
Yeah, I remember we had Nathan on recently, and he really spoke highly of how much you've been pushing yourself in the gym as well. You know what I mean?
You've got all the lads in the gym, every single one of them. I go to the morning class, each of the pro class. Every single one of those guys wants to go to the UFC. Every single one. There's not anyone in there who's maybe I'll win a few fights and then I'll go off and do something else. Everybody in there wants to go to the UFC. So you've got this pace. I mean, Nathan Fletcher, and then you've got Nathan, you've got Liam Gittins, you've got Adam Wilson, you've got Francis Breen, you've got Connor Wilson. Loads more I've missed. But I mean, those lads, I reckon next gen is probably the best place in Europe for the featherweights and the bantams and stuff like that. The little monsters, and they make everything look so easy. And then a little bit heavy, you've obviously got Paddy and Adam Cullen and Ben, Petches Kelly, myself, and again, loads of other guys I've missed. But we're all pushing each other, we're all trying to punch each other's head in, but we're all mates afterwards.
And they're still all so young as well, aren't they?
Sure. So, yeah. That's right. Yeah, Nathan, I think he's like 24, 25 still. I've got 5 years on him, and he must be a fight away from a title shot. If he beats Bouland, as far as I'm concerned, he should be getting a title shot.
Yeah.
We actually had a man recently speaking about that, and he said he thinks that is like the number one contender fight now, especially by Bouland had beat Liam Gittins last time out in controversial fashion.
Yeah.
But yeah, he thinks that, we think that's the next logical step for him as well, and obviously that's probably the feeling in the gym as well.
I think so, and kind of when people talk to me about my career and stuff and the mistakes I've made, if you ever want an example of someone who's kind of done the exact opposite to me, is Nathan Fletcher. He's been in the right place. He's been groomed. He's not had any easy fights by any means, but he's progressively fought harder guys. He's had kind of like a perfect career, and if you've guided Nathan so well, like I say, they've done kind of the opposite with Nathan than I've done myself. He's done it the right way. When I kind of went, I took the scenic route, I took the long way around.
Yeah.
So to kind of bring it back to yourself then, so obviously Nathias beat Webb to get the belt. You obviously beat Webb. Have you had the chance to look over their fights that they had to gain insight into Nathias and everybody?
It's quite lucky, really, because me watching Webb, I've obviously been picking up on what Fredrick's been doing the whole time as well. And they've had two. The first fight went 5 rounds, and the second fight went 4 rounds. So there's a solid 9 rounds there that you can look on and write little notes. I'm quite I have a little notebook, and I'll write down little notes and stuff, and which come to me as I'm watching. I've watched that fight 10 times, but yeah, I've definitely there's definitely a lot in that fight to pick up on. James Webb had a lot of success in that fight. This is what I don't kind of understand about Webb. Webb's kind of like a very high level black belt. His coach is Tyler Pearman, who's one of the best in the world, but his positioning in those Fredrick fights is absolutely terrible. Fredrick is just like pushing him off. And I understand Fredrick's going to be strong, he's explosive and whatnot, but Fredrick's just pushing him off. There's no way he'll be able to do that if I'm on top of him, if your positioning's good. There's no way he'd be able to do that against, a fucking lightweight. If they put the positioning well, I do think an awful lot in those fights it wasn't what Fredrick was doing right, it was what James Webb was doing wrong. His positioning was terrible. His striking, James Webb's striking, again, is quite poor. He needs some real work on his boxing. But he took, I think I counted him in the first fight, I think he took Fredrick down 20 times, or 12 to 20 times, if I remember. It was over the 2 fights, it was well over 20 times.
Yeah.
So he did a lot of good things in there, but then he just, like I say, his positioning was absolutely terrible. For a black belt, his positioning was awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, surprising that, especially if he has had some success. But I suppose getting the takedown is only one thing. If you don't do anything with it, it's pointless, isn't it?
It might just be Fredrick. He's super strong. You have to put that into perspective as well. I kind of did. I had the same opinion of James Webb. I was thinking he must be so strong when he comes in because he's taking people down so many times. There must be something more than underhooks, because all I did in my fight was underhooks with him. There must be something more to him than people being able to frame away and defend the takedowns. And then when I was in there wasn't. It was quite easy to defend with the underhooks coming in. Hence why I'm a little bit kind of curious why nobody else did that against him. But maybe nobody else saw it. Maybe I'm kind of doing me and my team down by recognising that.
Yeah. Maybe Fredrick is sort of like is it Derek Lewis? He just makes getting up look easy, doesn't he?
That's right. Yeah.
Maybe it's similar.
He's kind of the same as Derek Lewis on the feet as well. Like, he'll be off balance and still be able to knock you out.
Yeah,
it's really strange. If you watch the Jamie Richardson fight, he's kind of ice skating the whole time. Fredrick, he's sliding all over the cage. I don't know why, whether he's just got really sweaty feet or if he's got some kind of, like sweet sweat on him from the day before, because you put like sweet sweat on you so you can dehydrate, so you can make the weight. Whether that's kind of all coming out of his pores, but he's slipping about all over the place. So for him to be able to still knock, Richardson out in their fight says something about his power. But we'll see. I think Richardson made quite a lot of mistakes in that fight, to be honest.
Yeah. As we mentioned, we had Nathan on very recently again to talk about his fight, and we got his opinion on your upcoming fight with Nathias. How do you think he's going to get on against Brian Booland?
I think, again, without kind of blowing too much smoke up Fletcher, I think he's probably one of the best all-rounders in Cage Warriors. So I think it'll probably end. Nathan is so good on the ground. I don't think I'm giving away any kind of game plan by saying that. But I think it'll probably end up with Nathan subbing him with a rear naked choke. That's what he tends to do against everyone. I actually thought the guy who Nathan fought last, it's like Michel Montanaghi or something like that, Italian guy. Yeah. I actually thought Nathan was going to have loads of trouble with him. But I don't know if Nathan said he was super ill before that fight.
Yeah.
Massively ill. Yeah. And he's still, I don't know about making it look easy, but he still beat him comfortably, I would say. So I think he'll end up, and again, I have no idea what Nathan's game plan is at all, but I think I'll end up wrestling him, taking his back and choking him out, probably in the second round.
Yeah, I don't think anyone picked up on the fact that he was sick until he mentioned it. So
that's right. He was a mess. Yeah. He was a mess. He came backstage and he looked like a little old man. He was all kind of curled up. He was throwing up in the bin. He had to go for a lie down in the medical room. I think they gave him some kind of medication, but he was a mess. But that just says how good. It just makes how good his conditioning was. His conditioning was so good that he was still, maybe at 40% and still goes in there and performs.
It's a scary thought, isn't it? If he can do that at 40%, what he can do at 100% is just doesn't.
That's right. And the guy he was against again was super tough. He fought Wesley Mayer in his last fight and beat him. And Wesley Mayer's now he's a top fighter. So I think I'm quite confident in Nathan winning that fight, to be honest.
So obviously, Graham announced that the event is now behind closed doors. No fans will be going. How much is a blow? Of a blow is that for you? How much does that affect you?
I kind of knew it was coming because I had the Kieran, who's the Cage Warriors kind of media guy. He messaged us all and said, "Can you do like a little promo saying, like, oh, the fans are back and all the rest of it?" And then we did this promo and then didn't hear anything about it for like 2-3 weeks. So I figured that was going to be the case anyway, especially with the Indian variant thing kind of picking up a little bit of steam. But in terms of kind of it affecting me, I'm not really that bothered, to be quite honest. I fought the last 3 with no crowd, and I've kind of got used to there being no crowd. So to add that kind of extra in there, I don't think it would affect me, but I prefer everything to be as kind of as similar as it has been for the last 3 fights. It'd be lovely to have all your mates and obviously your missus there and your family watching you win a world title, but it just is what it is. And hopefully by the time I have to defend the thing, everything's going to go back to normal. But yeah, in terms of how much it's disappointing, but it's nothing it's not really affected it's not affecting me like emotionally or mentally or anything like that.
Yeah. So a lot of good things have been happening at Next Gen recently. Obviously, yourself's got the title shot. Paddy's just been signed to the UFC. What's that atmosphere like in there at the minute?
It's top. It is. It's good. I mean, we're all sparring today upstairs. We've got a cage upstairs, so we all go upstairs and we watch each other spar. It's kind of simulating the fight. So you've got the 2 coaches, Ellis. We've got 3 coaches, Ellis, Adam Venture, and Paul Rimmer watching. They're kind of trying to simulate the fight, I suppose. So there's a little bit of nerves and adrenaline going there, but you've got all the lads who are kind of either giving you advice or giving your partner, your opponent, the advice. But everyone's looking super conditioned. I was watching Adam Cullen and Joel Downey Cave spar today. Adam Cullen's a good friend of Nathan Fletcher, and the conditioning is unbelievable. And you're starting to see people peak now. Everyone looks super fit and slick. Even the amateurs there could. I think most of them are going pro in August. So you've got a really good, strong, up and coming, youth coming through as well. So yeah, it's good, and I say everyone's mates and everyone gets on. There's no kind of animosity or jealousy from anyone. Obviously, Paddy's going to the UFC now, and so everyone's happy for him. But even on a selfish kind of way, Paddy going to the UFC is going to shine the spotlight on everybody else in the gym as well. That does dribble down to everybody else. So everyone's buzzing about that, and everyone's ready. I think the last Cage Warriors next had the most amount of fighters on the card, and I presume it's going to be the same. I think we've got like 6 on there. So
yeah.
I think we probably are kind of the gym in the country at the moment, I suppose.
Yeah. I think it speaks volumes to the work that like Paul Rimmer and the coaches are doing, because obviously the success that Next Gen have had over the last few years, Paddy in the UFC, Molly there, Chris Fishgold, obviously yourself with the title shot, Nathan looking like he's the next in line for one. The success rate right now is, like you say, it's off the chart. So it's a testament to the work that the coaches are putting in with all of you.
That's it. This is kind of the difference I'm saying from when I first started. Your coaches are guys who are maybe doing 40 hours a week at a warehouse or whatever, and then spending 2 hours in the evening teaching at some sweaty gym in Warrington. Or you've got guys at Next Gen who live and breathe the sport, and even when they do go home after doing a 10-hour shift in Next Gen, they're watching UFC fights and watching MMA breakdowns and stuff like that. These guys are massively knowledgeable. Paul Rimmer or Ellis Hampson, they've forgotten more than I'll probably ever know about the sport. So you have got top coaches in there who do guide everyone, and like you've mentioned, the success speaks for itself. Really, they've not just got one person to do UFC. They've got 3, and then anyone else you might get signed either at the end of this year or next year.
So talk about that a bit then. So obviously you have the fight for Nathias, you get the belt. What comes next? Is it defend it a couple of times, or
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. It was... I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this, because they've not said I'm not allowed to say it, but I don't know. I'll say it anyway, and then I'll just have to deal with Graham if he does kick off, whatever. But they actually said the winner of the James Webb fight and me last time was going to go on UFC Contender Series. That's what they said before the fight. They said, whoever wins out you and James Webb are going to go on the UFC Contender Series. And then I won the fight. Well, they ever said, you're going to go on the Contender Series, or you're going to fight for the title? So I won the fight, and then the kind of Contender Series thing was brushed under the rug a little bit. I presume it's because how hard the visas are to get now with COVID and stuff.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it would have been great to go on there, but kind of the consolation prize is still a world title, so I wasn't too kind of fussed about that. But in terms of what happens after the Fredrick fight, I'm not sure that they look like they're lining up this Ken Cockman fella. I still don't know how to pronounce his second name, but there's a guy who's just come over from Bellator. He won Jamie Richardson the last time out, and he's just been scheduled to fight Justin Moore the day after me. So it looks like I think they're going to try and set that fight up, either with me or Fredrick, unless an opportunity does come up and UFC do need a middleweight and whatever. And obviously, I'd step in for that, but that's what I figure. I think they want me to improve my record. I'm 9-6 now. I'll be 10-6 hopefully if I beat Fredrick. I think they'll want me to get to 12-6 before they even think about putting me across the UFC. But we'll see. I'm happy at the moment, just winning fights and seeing what happens.
Do you think having the world title is the best thing, having that shot? Because obviously with the Ultimate Fighter coming back, maybe that might sort of shadow the Contender Series a bit, do you think?
I've always wanted the Cage Warriors title before I even went in there, to be honest. So I think it's more kind of sentimental for me. It would mean more if I won the world title. That would have been my choice anyway. I obviously would have gone on the Contender Series, and then if you win that and do it in style, you'll go on to the UFC and all the rest of it. But I've always fancied the idea of winning the belt. I think I've had like 8 or 9 fights out of Cage Warriors now, which is more than a lot of people. So I've got a little bit more affection for getting that belt. And listen, if I won that world title and then couldn't fight again or lost 10 fights afterwards, I'd still think I've had a really successful career just by winning the Cage Warriors world title. I would be really, really pleased with that. Yeah,
because it still shows your journey, doesn't it?
That's right, yeah.
You know, and actually winning the belt, and especially as you've mentioned, you know, some things you didn't do right, and then you made those changes to get the belt then. So
that's right.
So, I mean, you know, if you do win the belt, you're joining some huge names who've won belts in Cage Warriors. So that in itself is a massive thing.
That's right. It is. It's got to be kind of like the top 5 world titles in the MMA world, I would imagine. Top 5 or maybe top 7. Obviously, you've got UFC, Bellator, ONE FC and whatnot. But after that, it kind of gets a little bit jumbled up. I'd imagine, I mean, you know, the Cage Warriors title, it's got to be up there with KSW and stuff like that. Cage Warriors is the biggest European show, so you know, I think for anyone to win the Cage Warriors world title, I think you've achieved more than maybe 99% of the other MMA fighters who come into the game.
Definitely. Well, we're looking forward to the fight. We know you're going to get the job done, and once you've got that belt over your shoulder, we'll get you back on. You can show it off for all our listeners and viewers.
Sure, man. I'll definitely be back on.
But yeah, we've honestly really enjoyed talking to you again, and best of luck against Nathias. We'll be rooting for you from our homes.
Cheers, fellas. Thanks very much. See you soon.
Take it easy, mate.
See you later, guys. Bye.